that, of course, is a story for another day, and I'll see you, and we'll talk about that down the road.
Welcome, wrestling fans. You got the show Bill Schuyler here at One Wrestling's NXT News and Reviews. This is the Schuyler Report, and we're going to jump right into this week's episode because it was chocked full of action from beginning to end. We had an opener with the Vaudevillians, Simon Gotch, Aiden English, going up against the Hype Bros, Zack Ryder and Mojo Rawley. My God, NXT are putting everything and they got behind pushing the Hype Bros. Tremendous smoke, steam effects, lights, etc. These guys are being pushed to the moon. They are way over with the younger fans. They are quite exciting, and they are an excellent team in the ring. The Vaudevillians, of course, as you've known over the past weeks, have been slowly turning heel, and that was more than apparent tonight by the viciousness that came forth during this match. The villains were quite ready to deal with the Manic Hype Bros, who were literally off the chain and looked really damn good. The villains were quite vicious and ruthless in dealing with Ryder and Mojo. We had great tag team wrestling between both teams. Hot tags, keeping the opponents in their corners, working them over, tagging in and out, and working over each other's opponent on separate body parts and the like tag team wrestling is supposed to be. The Vaudevillains would strike out and level Zack Ryder with Aiden English's whirling dervish for the 1-2-3, and the Vaudevillains have won this match, taken out Mojo Rawley and Zack Ryder, and have officially debuted as heels, and as heels the Vaudevillains definitely rule in the show's book. We then get a pre-tape backstage Carmella interview talking about her becoming the number one contender and facing Bayley next week for the women's title. Friends are friends, but in the ring it's all business and nothing is personal. So they say now, let's see what happens at the end of that match when one or the other does not have that title belt. Will they still be hugging it out in the middle of the ring? Or will there be a whole lot of difference? Will there be some anger? Will there be some angst? Will there be a vicious heel turn by one of the BFFs? My friends, Carmella, not that long ago, was indeed a heel with Enzo and Big Cass, and I think the Long Island Princess could definitely turn heel, turn bad guy, and do the dirty deed that needs to be done to try and become the NXT Women's Champion. But I don't think she's got what it takes to defeat Bayley at this time. We then get the tag team champions, Dash and Dawson, coming out and basically telling the truth straight up that Enzo and Big Cass have been unable to defeat the champions or win the titles from any point in their career from any of the former champions. Meanwhile, Dash and Dawson, they are the tag team champions of the world, NXT champions, possibly the greatest tag team in the entire WWE, and they have beaten up every tag team that's come before them in NXT, that being up-and-comers, legends, and even former champions. It is what it is, fella. When it comes down to it, they choke every time in the big match, and Enzo and Big Cass just cannot seem to get their hands on that gold to go around their waist here in NXT. Will they make it up to the big roster instead? Will things change for them up there? Hard to say. I can't see them winning the gold up there and they can't win it down here in NXT, especially during a time when the tag team division was nowhere near as strong as it is right now. Yet they continued to not make the clutch of that brass ring. Now, we then have match number 2 of the night. Carmella going up against Emma with Dana Brooke in her corner. Really, really good match. Fans, Emma and Dana must stay together forever as a duo. These two need to be together. I'm talking for the next 50, 60 years. I want them to be together like Moolah. All right, and oh, good Lord, how could she pass my mind right now? You know, the great one that went through the tables and everything else. One of the greatest old-time gals. These two need to be together that long, sticking it out, because they are perfect together. Dana Brooke is not only good in the ring, but she's one of the best valets in the business, one of the best managers, if you will, in the business, one of the most vocal, outstanding, just loud, abusive. She is absolutely one of the greatest heel mouths going in NXT. Now, Carmella and her worked a really, really good match together. This was nothing to write home about. This was no 5-star match, but it was a good, solid match, and your winner would be Carmella via a simple backslide pin over Emma for the 1, 2, and 3. Then we get Enzo and Big Cass going up against Jabroni number 1 and Jabroni number 2. This was a solid workout match, ending up as a squash match, just like we knew it was going to be, with Enzo, with a little assistance by Big Cass, getting a little more emphasis on that up in the air frog splash for the 1, 2, 3 pin. And your winners were Enzo and Big Cass, and Jabroni 1 and 2 go back to places unknown. Then we go to William Regal, the GM for NXT. He is getting ready to make his announcement about his decision on last week's triple threat match, and in comes Baron Corbin, storming into the office, standing there looking angry and pissed off, wanting to know what's getting ready to go down. Regal says there will be a rematch. Baron Corbin seems to be happy about this, and he says this rematch will be between Samoa Joe and Sami Zayn next week. Corbin is furious, and Regal says, look, everyone who did not submit in last week's match will be in the rematch. You are the one that tapped out. With that, Corbin storms out of the office, and we're looking forward to this match next week between Samoa Joe and Sami Zayn for the number 1 contender spot for Dallas TakeOver. Now, we then get a interesting and I'm just solidly stoked to hear she was coming in. I'm hoping that this possibly turns into her being signed to NXT. Who am I talking about? I am talking about Santana Garrett. I am talking about one of the greatest women's wrestling champions in the business today. You don't know Santana Garrett? Maybe you remember her as Brittany in her brief run in TNA about a year or so ago, but I'm sure you know her better through the indies as Santana Garrett. She has been the NWA, the Shine, the Shimmer women's champion, among many, many others, and she's currently Japan's Wonder of Stardom champion, the same promotion where the alpha female resides. That's right, alpha female. Check out our special interview that Big Ray and myself had with alpha female, which is on last week's episode of the Big Slam Nation Check it out. You will be impressed by Alpha Female. And would love to see Female and Garrett go at it for the belt. But we're getting to see Santana Garrett going up against Asuka, Japan's Wonder Star, this great Japanese talent, one of the greatest women's wrestlers in the business today herself. Although I will tell you this, Santana Garrett was ranked number 4 on the PWI Top 50 Females of 2015. You know who was not in that top 5? Asuka. That's who wasn't in that top 5. So all this information about Santana Garrett, all these championships she's held, all these great promotions that she's run roughshod over, that currently holding a Japanese women's title, none of this is mentioned by the commentators in NXT. But what we got here turned out to be one hell of a match between Santana Garrett and Asuka. This, in my opinion, was one of the greatest matches that Asuka's had since entering NXT. If they could give Santana Garrett and Asuka a 15 to 20 minute match, they would steal the card that they were on. Santana Garrett took it to Asuka as well as she got it, and again, it just appears again the greatest opponent that Asuka's faced. And this just would be a monster world title feud in 2016, because I see Asuka winning that title from Bayley come Dallas TakeOver, and to bring Santana Garrett in after that and having the two of them go at it for months and months, just tearing it up in every type of match you could think of, would be solid gold for NXT. Triple H, Steph, I'm just saying it as it is. Sign Santana Garrett. Sign Alpha Female. Beef up this women's division even more in NXT, because as they're moving their way to the main roster, you're going to have to cut loose a lot of that dead wood that's up there in your Divas division that can't hold a candle to any of the women here in NXT. Now, with this here, this match ended by submission. Asuka getting in her armbar submission hold, and Santana Garrett did indeed tap to Asuka. Looking forward to these two women meeting each other again. We then had our main event of the evening. This was a non-title match. Apollo Crews going up against Finn Balor to prove to himself that he would be able to defeat the world champion, as he was unable to do so at their match the last time they met. This was an amazing pure wrestling match, something that came out way better than I expected. Apollo Crews showed his true colors here. He let everybody on this roster and on the Raw and SmackDown rosters and the world wrestling community that this man is ready. With a little bit more polish and a little bit more help on the mic, he will be, as I said, the first black WWE World Heavyweight Champion by the time he reaches the age of 30. That's in the next, say, 2.5 years. This was a pure wrestling match going with two faces who both refused to take it easy on either one, and both went for broke. These guys beat the living hell out of each other, and they did it via wrestling holds and moves. Nobody getting dirty, nobody throwing illegal punches, no shenanigans whatsoever. These two men just went at it mano a mano, and Finn Balor was able to prove to the World Wrestling community, the NXT roster, the Raw and SmackDown roster, and anybody else who wants to know. He proved tonight why he indeed is the NXT World Champion, why he was the great champion that he was in New Japan Pro Wrestling, and that he will continue to be a champion no matter where he goes. Now I want to talk a little bit about the ending of this match. He defeated Apollo with the coup de grace, plus he hit him with some type of improvised rock bottom-esque style slam for a little extra emphasis, which garnered him the 1-2-3. Both men would eventually shake hands. Apollo would not get off of the mat, just looking completely devastated by the loss, just shaking his head and just unwilling to get up and face the fact that he lost this match and lost it clean after giving everything he had in trying to defeat Finn Balor and was not able to get the job done. Finn went over, put his hand on his shoulder, spoke some words of encouragement to him. He then did get up, they shook hands, and Apollo Crews raised the champion's arm up in victory. And the fans were eating this up. And with this, I cannot wait to see how these same fans take it come Dallas TakeOver. If it turns out that Finn Balor turns full-blown heel in the middle or after the match with Samoa Joe or Sami Zayn, whoever becomes that number one contender, when the Bullet Club makes their way out to assist Balor, I'm talking about Carl Machine Gun Anderson and Doc Luke Gallows, the suntan biker man himself. When they come out and completely devastate and destroy his opponent, who will the fans side with then? What will they do when their hero, when the demon makes his true nature shown to the WWE universe, that he is indeed that ruthless wrestler, the rock and roller, click, click of the Bullet Club that he was and ruled in New Japan Pro Wrestling. I cannot wait. If it turns out that he is facing Sami Zayn, well, it'll be obvious, and there'll be no problems with that. That'll be him turning full heel on his friend, his amigo, his buddy, Sami Zayn, as he's devastated and destroyed by the Bullet Club or the Balor Club, however they're going about calling them. And if it turns out that it's Samoa Joe, who is in full heel mode as it is now, I see this match turning and going the way of Bret Hart and Stone Cold Steve Austin, where we had both men who one was face, one was heel when it started, and by the end of the night, that switched the other way around, and Steve Austin was the hero and Bret Hart the villain. Cannot wait for TakeOver Dallas, which of course is WrestleMania weekend, but I'm more excited about this TakeOver event than I am WrestleMania. And that just goes to show you, friends, which product is putting forth the better wrestling. And that, my friends, without a shadow of a doubt. Let me raise the cup here, get a little coffee to keep myself going. That, my friends, is NXT. Now I'm going to give a shout out to everyone here in One Wrestling's Big Slam Nation. That's Big Ray at Big Ray Show on Twitter. Follow him. Follow all of us here on Twitter. Follow Kenny Killer. That's right, the newest member of the Big Slam Nation, taking care of everything New Japan Pro Wrestling. He also is part of the Sunday Segway podcast. Check him out. Follow him on Twitter. Follow their podcast every Sunday. It is one of the greatest in the business. Then, of course, we got the Nature Boy Fame Black at Fame Black. The dirtiest in the city, 8-Track Brown at Pharaoh of Fancy. Billy Ray Valentine at Billy Ray Hustle. And the Professor Quintana, Q as I know him. You will follow him on Twitter at PROFPW Hustle. And of course, OK Fabe Connor Morgan from Boston, our TNA reporter and correspondent. Check him out each and every week as he gives you the rundown for TNA and Impact Wrestling. And of course, you got the show here. I take care of NXT, Ring of Honor pay-per-views, anything breaking in Ring of Honor, and on the indies. And with that, I am going to tell you this, there's going to be a new show forthcoming with Billy Ray and the Professor, with different guests here and there to be co-hosts with us as we tackle the indies, talking with special guests from indie promotions all across the United States up into Canada, and maybe we'll even go worldwide and get a hold of some people over there in the UK, in Scotland, in Britain, in Ireland, in Germany. Who knows where we'll reach throughout Europe. But right now, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. We're going to concentrate right here, starting on the East Coast. And I'm not going to give out any names yet, but it's one of the best promotions up and coming here in the New Jersey, New York area. That's all I got to say on that right now. Though that's going to be held off for the next few weeks. So sometime after WrestleMania, we'll be bringing that to you. Now I got a special friend of the Big Slam Nation. And this gentleman has his own YouTube show, Sons of Wrestling. He does his thing at Rob Kimball Brand. That's Kimball. He also deals in spreadshirts, and he does all kinds of great works. He's got some new ones that he put out there for the Big Slam Nation. Check him out on his page. You will see them. Order them. I have my pick. My number one shirt is en route right now, but here's a great one he designed along with me. That is a memorial to Bruiser Brody from Japan. This is available for purchase on his Spreadshirt account. So feel free to check out Rob Kimball Brand. The former Addiction tag team, Frankie Kazarian, Christopher Daniels, they rock personal shirts made for them by Rob Kimball. And even Finn Balor himself has been seen wearing merchandise by Rob Kimball and others in the indie circuit throughout the United States. So do indeed check out Rob Kimball at Rob Kimball on Twitter. Then lastly, my amigo, a friend of mine that I met through the boss Bill Apter, Randy Helms. You can follow him at Helms Randy on Twitter. My amigo Randy Helms and myself will be on a friend of ours podcast on Super Bowl Sunday early in the day. That's the Hardcore Wrestling podcast put forth by Dwayne Hadley. Follow him at Dwayne Hadley or at HCW Podcast. And his podcast will be put forth on Spreaker. And who knows what topics my tag team partner and myself are going to talk about. But what I will tell you is this: there'll be no boundaries. There will be no rules. This will be a come as you will street fight. You know what I'm saying? We're going to be able to talk about anything we want to talk about in any form and fashion. And believe me, Randy and myself have great knowledge of this sport, where it's come from, where it's at, and where it could go. And we're not going to be shy in telling and talking about what's wrong with the business today and what needs to be tweaked, what needs to be fixed, and taking it forward. And we're going to talk all about these type of situations on Dwayne Hadley's Hardcore Wrestling podcast. So do indeed check him out. Check out Randy Helms. Check out Dwayne Hadley. And of course, check out Rob Kimball. And all of us in the Big Slam Nation. And last and certainly not least, the boss himself, El Jefe Metal. Who would that be? That is the icon, Bill Apter at Apter One Wrestling. Not only the greatest wrestling photographer in the history of the business, but he now is a certified, bona fide author. And he has written one of the greatest wrestling books in the business, in the history of the business. That is wrestling fixed? And I've had this question asked to me over and over again by people just on the street, people I work with, people I meet at the shows, and they come up to me and they say, "Show, is wrestling fixed?" And I gotta look at them. And I gotta shake my head. And I gotta say, is wrestling fixed? My friend, I didn't know it was broken. And that indeed is the name of Bill Apter's book. And that is the God's honest truth to the question, is wrestling fixed? By God, there's nothing broken about this sumbitch. With that, I am the show. Follow me and all of my tag team partners at the Big Slam Nation each and every Friday night going into Saturday AM. Do check out last week's episode if you do before we get into this upcoming week, and check out the fantastic interview that Big Ray and I had with the Alpha Female. And follow Alpha Female 1 on Twitter. One of the greatest wrestlers in the business that needs to be signed forthwith by either NXT or TNA. One of the two will sign this wrestler in 2016. The question is, who's going to be the smartest of the two? Is it going to be Hunter, or is it going to be Dixie? My money's going on Hunter and Stephanie McMahon Helmsley signing Alpha Female to the NXT roster and continuing to build up that women's division. And when you bring along Alpha Female, bring along her partner, her peer, if you will, from Japan, Santana Garrett. With that, I am the show. I will see you at the matches, and by God, I will see you down the road.